Good afternoon. The inquiry's resumed, and this afternoon we're hearing from a number of interested parties, and the first person on my list is Mr. Tomovich.
Sorry, it's me, his wife.
Sorry.
Laura Wood.
Okay.
I'm here to represent Ashcroft.
Well, actually, just bear with us for a second.
Oh,
sorry. Right. So just so I'm clear, so you also work for Ashcroft Veterinary Practice. Okay. And the objection we received was in Mr. Tomovich's name. Is that what you're? Is that what you're speaking to?
yes.
Okay. Just hold on a second. If you'd like to come to the table in the middle, it just means that there's a microphone there so that everybody can hear what you're saying. If you want a glass of water, there's some clean glasses there and some water. So yes, what I'll do. And sorry, is it Mrs.
Laura Wood.
Is it Mrs. or Miss or Miss? Okay. Well, I'll ask you to say what you'd like to the inquiry, and then there will be an opportunity for if you're speaking against the proposal. I should have checked to see whether the microphone's working. You might need to bring it a bit closer to where you're speaking. There will be an opportunity for those in favour of the scheme, that includes the applicant and potentially the council, to ask you questions, and myself and Mr. Clegg might have some questions for you as well.
Yeah.
But over to you, Ms. Wood, if you'd like to let us know what you want to say.
Yep. Well, I'm representing Ashcroft Vet Surgery. I'm one of the founding partners. We started the surgery 40 years ago last January. We went from 2 vets working on our own, and we now have 5 partners and 21 employees. Our employees come from a large area. They rely on their cars to get to the surgery, and we have a very large pool of clients from as far as St Neots, Huntingdon, Cambridge, all around.
And sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Is the property on Ashfield? On St Neots Road? Is that the only surgery, or do you have a?
We have a branch surgery in Papworth, a small branch surgery in Papworth. Yeah.
Are you able to say? How does the business work in terms of the number of people who work in the different practices?
The main practice is on St Neots Road. As I say, Papworth is a branch surgery. We have 1 vet and 1 nurse receptionist working there, and that's not open full time. But all the operating and everything is done from St Neots Road, so we have lots of clients coming. We have arranged our appointment times to cut down the number of clients who are there at any one point, just to make things easier, and our staff work shifts, so we don't have all the staff there at the same time. But we do rely basically on the lay-bys on St Neots Road, especially the one out in front of the surgery. We have deliveries of drugs every day. We have medical gases, equipment. We have pickup of clinical waste, and that's usually large lorries coming every day to do that.
Sorry, so is the clinical waste and gas every day, or is that?
It's clinical waste pickup. We have medical gases. We have drugs delivered every day, and equipment.
Thank you.
And then, of course, we have clients coming. We can plan for a certain number of clients, but we also have emergencies, so we have to have constant access to the front of the surgery. Often clients are coming with, for instance, large dogs that have to be stretchered in, that sort of thing, so we have to be able to go in and out. And so far, for 40 years, this has run no problems. I myself have lived in Hardwick for 35 years, and I can't ever remember seeing St Neots Road congested. So everything seems to be running fine so far. The lay-bys, every day there are quite a lot of cars parked along the lay-bys, not just our staff, but other businesses along the road. And if the laybys are eliminated, I don't know where they will go. My husband and I are both bicyclists. We use the bicycle path. I cycle into town 3 to 4 times a week. The present path could be upgraded, certainly, but I can't see. We've looked along the road, and it seems that there should be plenty of room for a pedestrian bicycle path and maintaining the laybys that are there. We have been approached by the developers in the last couple of days to see if we could come to some arrangement, but unfortunately it was left to such a last-minute approach that we haven't had time to look at it properly, so we wanted to come along today. Yeah, they did make some positive suggestions, but as I say, it was so last minute we were a little bit worried not to come. But as I say, St Neots Road has never been a busy road. I cannot remember in 40 years ever having seen it congested. But if you take away the laybys with the rubbish pickups on Wednesdays, with, I don't know, Amazon deliveries and all the rest of it, if you're going to put double yellow lines all along there, then that is going to be very difficult. And for us, it would make it just about impossible. You know, we're the oldest independent practice in Cambridge. We're surrounded by corporates who would like to take us over. You know, this would make things just that much harder for us.
Could you just remind me of the numbers of staff you had at the St Neots Road branch?
We have 21 staff and 5 partners in total. As I say, they work on a shift basis, and 2 people would be working up in Papworth, but they're backwards and forwards between the 2 surgeries.
So the 5 partners and 21 employees is both St Neots Road and Papworth?
Yeah.
Yes, but as I say...
I'm sorry, we can only have one person giving evidence.
Hardwick is the main practice. We work out of there. Every day, 2 people go up to Papworth, but as I say, they're backwards and forwards. And we don't do Papworth at the weekends, we do just Hardwick at the weekends.
And on a normal day, how many people, what's the maximum number of staff you'd be likely to have at the main premises?
I would think about 10 at St Neots Road. 10 to 12. I mean, they can, if the scheme goes ahead and they're going to build the park and ride, then our staff would have to park in the park and ride. That would not be a problem. But where there would be a problem is while it's all being established, because if they take out the laybys before they build the park and ride, then there will be nowhere for all these people, not just our staff, to park. And I mean, Hardwick is horrible for parking. Cambridge Road is very badly congested. People constantly have to wait because there are cars parked all along Cambridge Road, so cars are forever having to wait for the people coming in the opposite direction to get by. There have been a couple of accidents out in front of the shop, and it's not good parking there, and there really isn't anywhere else for these people to go. So, as I say, if they are going to go ahead with the scheme, then they do need to do some alternate parking before they take out the laybys.
Thank you. I've got a few questions for you, but first I'll just see whether there's anybody else who wants to ask any questions. Mr. Cameron.
I've got 1 or 2. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Ms. Wood. Can I just go... Well, perhaps I can ask on that screen, if somebody is operating it, if they could just put up one of the scheme plans so we can just locate where your surgery is. So it's core document 1-16-04, and it's just so that the inspectors have a map which shows where, because we got that, we need to go to page 10 in that document, because you're number 169, are you?
169, that's right.
Can you see that screen okay? Do we need to move the screen forward?
I can see it.
You can see it, okay.
So I don't know what you've got on there, but it's what we're calling core document 11604 and page 10.
Can you just let me know which sheet that's
Even the
in?
proposed site plans, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, or do you actually go to 116,
It's not end.
116.2 and go to page 10, or do 116.2. I've got, no, it is this, because 169 is quite a narrow plot. So if you can locate Cambridge Road, which is the edge of the built development, and then go west, and you'll come to 169, which is on a fairly narrow plot. So, Ms. Wood, after that, moving about with documents, can I ask you this? So, are your current arrangements that you have private parking on your site for staff and for clients?
The staff don't park on our site. We only have 3-4 parking spaces.
But if somebody's bringing an animal to be attended to by you, they can park on the site?
Yep. Or we do have people, I mean, so far we have had people parking in the lay-by because the lay-by was there.
Yeah. And if you have a delivery, because you're having drugs delivered or equipment delivered or rubbish taken away, clinical waste, they're the people who park on the lay-by, are they?
They're always in the lay-by because it's usually large lorries and things, large vans.
So the private parking, where you have a right to park, is on your site.
Yeah.
And then on the highway, it's just using the highway like everybody else, is it? And as you say, the applicant's been in touch with you over the last couple of days, and a letter was written, I think, yesterday, and I had asked for that to go into the inquiry, but it doesn't seem to be on the inquiry documents. So what I'm going to do is to just ask you in principle whether the proposal which is set out in that letter, which I want to hopefully summarise fairly, is for a lay-by to be retained on the road with the cycleway footpath running alongside it. Now, if that was achieved, would that overcome your objection?
That would, yes, I believe that would overcome our objections, yes.
Yeah. So
we don't have a double yellow line out, so there is a lay-by and people can stop there.
So if that would that's all I really need to ask you. Because it sounds as though there can be a meeting of minds subject to the detail and agreement being reached. Is that all fair?
Yes, yes.
So the disadvantage for you is you don't have a copy of that letter. It was written as, to use the jargon, an open letter so that it could be referred to. But I don't need to ask any more questions because the principle is agreed. But I would like to be able to put that letter in if I can.
Of course.
I think it was sent to the programme officer last night. So I don't think I'm going to ask any other questions. Thank you, Ms. Wood.
Okay, thank you. Can I just check to see whether the council's got any questions? Or anyone else supporting the scheme? No. If I can just ask a few more questions, Ms. Wood. You mentioned that the staff don't park on the sort of either within the curtilage at the front or within the lay-by. So where do staff park at the moment?
Along the road mostly. I mean, there are one or two who come in on bicycles. Two of our vets are married, so they come in together, but mainly along the lay-bys.
And so is that the lay-bys further up the road, sort of in front
Further
of
up and down the road,
bungalows,
yes. Yeah.
that sort of space?
Yeah.
And again, just to clarify, so when I've been past your premises, I've noticed there are sometimes some cars parked within the curtilage. So just to confirm that those are customers, visitors.
Yes, those would be
bringing animals
clients. Yeah.
to-
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, I just wanted to be clear on that as well. The ones within the site, is it simpler for animals that need to be brought in?
Yes, yes. And people come to pick up drug prescriptions, that sort of thing as well. But yeah,
So
that's our clients basically, rather it's not staff. Able to get in all the time, so it would have to be done in bits if possible.
Thank you. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you very much.
And sir, I've already asked if that letter could go in. I was hoping we'd have it and we'd have it in front of us. But if it goes in, you'll be able to see
Yes.
precisely what's been proposed.
Well, from what both you and Miss Wood have said, I don't doubt we're going to cover it. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. The next on the list is the Cambridge and Peterborough CPRE, where Professor Tony Booth.
Okay.
We were thinking we might be able to fit you in before lunch, but
With your eyes open, you might think that Cambridge is a dysfunctional city rather than a capital of growth, the UK's Silicon Valley. Hills Road, a main artery to the city, is pockmarked with potholes and often under repair. In one of the richest cities in the country, very little is spent on the public sphere. Near Station Road, there are 3 empty office blocks, just near cranes servicing the building of a 7- and 5-storey office block at the Flying Pig site, Botanic Place. The Cambridge Growth Plan is difficult to fathom. We support CPPF's alternative scheme for buses, coupled with further measures to reduce traffic in Cambridge, particularly at rush hour, and radical improvement of cycle routes. We think it would be obscene to spend 200 million concreting over the countryside with a guided busway, instead of around 20 million on the alternative on-road scheme, when, for example, there are homeless people in Cambridge, an urgent need for social housing for key workers, and a need to restore locks to keep the iconic River Cam flowing. We maintain that C2C is promoted because of deficiencies in the structure of governance, creating opposing party political interests and a lack of democratic accountability. East-West Rail's proposed station at Cambourne raises further questions about predicted passenger numbers for C2C buses into Cambridge. Well, how did we get to this point? The busway proposals emerged within the chaotic local governance structure comprising City Council, County Council, South Cambridge District Council, East Cambridgeshire District Council, the Greater Cambridge Partnership, and Cambridge and Peterborough Combined Authority. In addition, there is the Cambridge Growth Company, led by Peter Freeman under instruction from the government, and powerful influence from Cambridge University and Cambridge Ahead, drawing together the wealthier elements of the business and financial sector. The Greater Cambridge Partnership was created by the 2014 Greater Cambridge City Deal, and comprises representatives from city, counties, South Cambs District Council, the university and business interests. It was financed with 500 million, up to 500 million.
Professor Booth, sorry to interrupt you there. I think we've got an understanding of the governance. Perhaps if you could just focus on what what your concerns are about the scheme, please.
The reason that I focused on governance is because I think that the scheme would not be being proposed if the governance, the somewhat chaotic governance, hadn't been in place. And I think we saw that in the evidence given by the Mayor of the Cambridge and Peterborough Combined Authority. That made me move in this direction. So I think it's an important element of the case, and I'm sorry if you think I'm repeating things that you know already, but I think most people actually don't know them. and I'm speaking on behalf of the people of Cambridge, as funneled through CPRE. And I think these are very important issues. And I think that if it were the case that if the governance hadn't been set up in such a way that there was a conflict between the Greater Cambridge Partnership and the combined authority under the mayor, I don't believe that this scheme would be being proposed. And so I thought it important to set out those issues. Because even after, and I could carry on with my presentation if you feel convinced by what I'm saying, or if you feel convinced by what you're saying.
I'm not going to take a view. I'm not going to take a view on that. I think what we need to hear is actually what, as you've explained in your written submissions about this specific proposal. I mean, you mentioned that your view is that if the governance had been different, that the scheme might not have been presented, but we have a scheme which is what we're considering. So that's why it's most helpful to us if you could focus on what it is you want to say about the proposal and alternatives, etc. Thank you.
Well, I have to say that does make this presentation difficult, and it also makes it hard for me listening, for example, as I said, to what Mr. Bristow had to say as mayor, and about how this will proceed. And even since this, recent
what I'll say, Professor Bailey, is carry on, but if we can just focus on the scheme, please. Thank you.
I thought that I might get somewhat thrown if you intervened, and of course I have.
Well, apologies. That certainly wasn't my intention. I just want to make sure that we're focusing on the issues that we need to consider.
Yes, I mean, but I hope you will accept that will come into force in 2028. And of course, combined authority might have gone. They won't have gone. They'll both still be in place, both charged with providing an overall view of transport for the area. Now, as a citizen, this is kind of mystifying, because it seems to suggest that those who are proposing local government reorganisation, which is meant to have simplified this whole process, actually aren't in dialogue with either those who are connected to the city deal, or those who are connected to the mayor. So it does look like that even after 2028, there will be considerable confusion about governance, and I think this will bear on the outcome of the busway, and it is a material consideration of the busway proposal. So I've made that point, and you've got it. And it's up to you to think it over and see whether you think it has relevance. If the mayor has charge of franchising and can determine whether or not buses are allowed to actually run on a future busway, it seems to me a critical issue. And one that clearly this conflict has not been taken up by, and noticed perhaps even by government. I think the proponents of the busway believe that exhortations for rapid growth from government will tip the decision in its favour to realise land value uplift. And I think they use in their support the idea of housing need, which I'll come on to. So build, build, build became a slogan for Boris Johnson, echoed by Cambridge estate agents Bidwills. And the slogan was modified by the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government, Steve Reed, in what could be seen as a MAGA tribute act at the 2025 Labour Party conference, complete with red caps handed to supporters proclaiming "Build, baby, build." So there had been from Michael Gove the proposal that 150,000 new homes for the Cambridge area should happen, and then Peter Freeman has been appointed to lead the implementation, now also adopted under Labour, the Cambridge Growth Company. And we see the grand ambition of the Cambridge Growth Company as delusional. And that's central to the argument for the Cambourne to Cambridge busway. The Cambridge growth phenomenon involves shifting jobs, housing and water from elsewhere in the country to the Cambridge area. Dependent on a jobs-led growth model, it creates a vicious cycle of housing shortages and rising house prices. CPRE argues that essential building should be spread across the country, taking jobs to where they are most needed and in areas where water is plentiful. The idea that scientific expertise has to be physically located in large clusters is an outdated notion, and particularly since COVID, with people sharing expertise over large distances, including globally. A comparable area to Silicon Valley in the US would be the whole of UK, rather than Cambridgeshire. We echo the testimony of Friends of the Cam, the Green Party and others, that mass building in the lowest lying, hottest, driest and amongst the most nature-depleted parts of the country lacks sense. The prospect of the Fen Reservoir, not due to be completed for a decade, being a workable part of the solution for water supply, has been described as crazy by Rob Larter of the British Antarctic Survey, with his knowledge of rising sea levels due to ice melts from the Antarctic and elsewhere. The combination of rising sea levels, high tides, storm surges and salination will give that reservoir a limited life, even if it is completed. It's a key element of Anglian Water's plan for water supplies for the region, as set out by Water Resources East, itself established by Anglian Water. Water companies are extractivist, owing first elite...
Sorry to interrupt again, Professor Booth, and I don't want to throw you off term, but I understand you've obviously got some deep-held views about a whole range of things, but for us it's very helpful. Could you explain what the relevance of these issues about water is to the proposed scheme, please?
Okay. There's the Environment Agency, until very recently, said that there could be no more major building work in Cambridge and the area because of water supply. That's been given as evidence to this inquiry previously. So the way the building plans in Cambridge, including in Cambourne and Bourne Airfield, they depend on water supply. They depend on a predictive, sustainable supply of water. We don't believe that that is possible. The Environment Agency, until recently, didn't believe it was possible. They were persuaded by government to accept that the notion of water credits, that is, betting on future supply of water through reservoirs and so on, or through the stopping of leaks, would provide sufficient water, and therefore should not be used as a reason to stop building. That's the relevance of talking about water supply. And it becomes really relevant when you think that there are severe issues raised by experts about the viability of the solutions to the water supply provided by, amongst others, Anglian Water. That's its relevance. Thank you.
In terms of the evidence we've heard about housing that's already either got planning permission or been allocated in local plans, so is your position that you oppose the busway as a way of preventing development that's already got permission? I'm struggling to understand how what your position is. What your position
well, I think
is.
the position of the busway is that it will facilitate further development, not only that's already there,
So
but through the process of land value uplift, it will make it attractive for developers to develop sites along its route.
So the CPRE's opposition to the busway is about enabling development that hasn't got permission yet. Is that what you're saying, or are you saying that you oppose all the development?
I oppose, and I'll come on to, there are many other reasons, I oppose unnecessary development for reasons because there is not sufficient water, and for other reasons because of the changes in the environment, which I think are insufficiently being taken into account. That actually we have a planning system which is out of date. I have to say,
Professor Booth, please don't interrupt me. I was going to say that we're not here to examine the planning system. We're working within the planning system. I think if you can just please focus on the proposal that myself and Mr. Clegg are being asked to consider, and we'll need to write a recommendation to the Secretaries of State on, please.
You know, I thought that that's precisely what I am doing, and I invite you. It won't happen now in this brief exchange between us, but it may happen at some point later. You know how it is that people reflect on the exchanges they have, and it may happen that you see some of the things that I'm saying as more relevant than you do at this moment. That's my experience of what happens when you have an exchange and it causes some kind of interruption to your the smooth process of the thinking here. I think it's highly relevant. I mean, I think it is not a smooth. You want this to be a smooth process. I mean, look, I sat in an inquiry about the shift of the sewage works not that long ago, and I have to learn from that. So the politics around the inquiry become much more relevant. I mean, you will know that the shift of the sewage works inquiry, in the end, the inspectors went away. It was a very expensive inquiry, like this is. The inspectors went away and they decided that the shift of the sewage works shouldn't go ahead. Then it was overturned by government, and then government overturned their own overturning of it because they said it was going to cost too much money. So all these considerations, trying to sort of operate within a whole picture of what goes on in an inquiry like this, and what are the material considerations. Forgive me if I've strayed from the guidelines that you wish I had adhered to.
Well, Professor Booth, I think that's probably covered the third bullet point on your statement of case, which is the organisations concerned about growth and clustering. Perhaps we can move on to the next bullet point, so the effects on landscape and ecology, and so on, as it's set out in your statement of case.
Yes, I'll go to that in a moment.
There's another 6 bullet points under your concerns about growth and clustering.
Yeah, I can go back to that. Maybe perhaps come on to that in a moment. I I think I'd like to talk about the risk of proceeding with this. And I think that we've considered some of the risks of proceeding with the proposal to passenger numbers from East-West Rail and alternative bus routes established by the Transport Authority. There are obvious risks to the scale of building in the Cambridge area from water supply. As the hazards from global warming intensify further over the next couple of decades, planning which ignores them, and I believe this ignores them, there's very little mention of them, will only hasten them. So I believe you may not want me to mention it. It is mentioned in the material that you had, but I think that a good prediction at current global emission rates is that we're likely to pass 2 degrees centigrade within the next 10 to 15 years. And if you imagine that's not going to affect building in the Cambridgeshire area, I think you're mistaken. Turning away from or denying the reality of impending and multiplying environmental catastrophes due to global warming does not change its likelihood. Planning is meant to be about building for the future. Present planning, locally and nationally, is about building for no future. It's perilously close to being part of an Armageddon cult. And I'll finish with talking about the other risks. As I said, the hazards from global warming intensify further over the next couple of decades. Planning which ignores them will only hasten them. The best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. The worst laid plans always do. We should not ignore the considerable risks of protest towards an extremely unpopular scheme intending to fragment and destroy a large part of Coton Orchard. The level of national and local protest will be high and likely to disrupt and delay any proposed work in the orchard and its vicinity. At CPRE, we're close observers of the way opposition to the destruction of green space is mobilized in this area, and particularly when this concerns the felling of old trees who have developed irreplaceable interconnected ecosystems. I think that the establishment of camps to resist the destruction of the orchard is likely and would inevitably push up costs through delays and policing and create considerable negative publicity. The Cambourne to Cambridge busway could become Cambridge's HS2. I'll stop there. It's been tricky giving evidence to this committee. I think not because I don't think very, very deeply and quite specifically about the plans that are proposed, but in trying to understand how we should think about them in context, I've raised issues which will be and will continue to be important, it seems to me, in how this process plays out. Thank you very much for listening to me to the extent that you have. Thank you.
Well, whilst I did ask you on a number of occasions that I think I'd heard sort of sufficient about the third bullet point about growth and clustering. Is there anything else that you'd like to say, Professor Booth, in terms of the objection from the CPRE?
Yeah, no, I think what I made, the point I made earlier, I think that I could have repeated a lot of points that have been made by others, including by the representative of the Cambridge, Cambridge past, present and futures, who was giving evidence this morning. I decided that probably wasn't, it might have sort of looked neat, but it wasn't a really good use of my time. I think you've heard the detail of those kinds of objections, and you've had the paperwork largely written by my colleague Alan James from CPRE. So, for whom I stood in, because he's not well. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Booth. I have got some questions for you, but before I do, I'll ask the applicant whether they've got any questions.
Just a few, please, Professor Booth. Now I've got in front of me the objection that was put in by the CPRE, and that's your colleague, Mr. James, I think.
Okay.
And we've got it as CD2 OBJ 308. If you've got that to hand, we'll just
it's one of these. Yes, the one with the series.
It's a letter of the 9th of January 2025.
Oh, 11th of January. Okay.
9th of January.
9th
of January
okay,
2025.
I'll just get that up.
It's on the...
Oh, okay, thanks. Yep, okay, anyway.
Right,
Yep.
well, we're going to turn to it in a moment, but let's just see. And the questions I have for you are directed at CPRE's position.
Yep.
So I'm going to start off with what CPRE are against and then what you're in favour of. So in terms of CPRE's position as set out in your letter, is this right, that the CPRE are against the proposed growth for Greater Cambridge as promoted by the Cambridge Growth Company? Is that right?
It's very hard to work out exactly what is promoted by the Cambridge Growth Company because a detailed plan hasn't been forthcoming. The general idea of the amount of growth that should and could and should take place and will take place in this area, I think that it is probably in the realms of fantasy.
And your group, the campaign, are opposed to it?
We're opposed to massive growth in an area where there is very limited water supply, where there is already more or less full employment, and where, on the evidence that we have, many of the buildings, well, there are buildings being put up when office blocks are empty. There's many of the houses that are being put up are being left empty or being sold abroad, and I can give you more information about that if you like. But so, I think that until there becomes a detailed plan which operates more in the interests of the people of Cambridge and its surrounding areas, and we can be sure that it operates in their interests, and that would involve a change in the way in which development is happening in our area, then of course we're opposed to it.
Yep. And if we look at your objection, page 2, and about halfway down the page, there's a paragraph that begins, above all else. The assumed growth levels for Greater Cambridge are completely unsustainable and not in the national interest.
Yes.
It's a pretty clear statement of opposition, isn't it?
That is a very clear statement of opposition.
Thank you. And if you go up one paragraph, you object to Cambourne to Cambridge, and then you refer to East West Rail, which you, by you, the CPRE,
Yep.
describe as an equally flawed project. So are you against East West Rail?
Overall, I'd say CPRE, Cambridgeshire and Peterborough are against it.
And if we turn to more locally, to housing and other development at Bourne Airfield, in favour or against?
Where is that?
It's not here, it's not there, I'm asking you.
Some housing depends on the kind of housing that's being built, the kind of housing that's being built. The way in which housing is being built in and around Cambridge is not the right approach.
And further housing development at Cambourne, same answer?
The same answer. You just have to look at the detail. I mean, you know, I was chatting to the way in which housing was built and sold to the ex leader of the council. In part, the council was in partnership with Hills. They were able to put some very careful criteria on the way in which houses were being sold, but that isn't happening in other areas. So where you've got large numbers of houses being sold to single buyers for investment, that's not, you know, that has to be changed.
In terms of the local plan strategy, and that's not the emerging local plan, but the adopted local plan, that allocates Bourne Airfield for 3,500 homes, and there's a allocation at West Cambourne for which there's a planning permission for 2,350 homes. Are you in favour of those developments?
I don't think there's the water for them.
So you oppose them?
I oppose them.
Yeah.
We oppose them.
Yeah. And so let's just turn to what you are in favour of, and if we can go to page 4 of the objection letter. And so we have a heading, need for an integrated approach to public transport, urgent need for integrated public transport and cross and even beyond the county boundaries. And then you refer to the CPPF scheme. So are you in favour of a public transport route between Cambridge and Cambourne?
There is a transport route between Cambridge and Cambourne. I'm in favour of it being improved along the lines of the CPPF scheme. We are in favour of it being improved.
So you are in favour of the CPPF alternative?
Yes.
And if the CPP alternative includes a new bridge over the M11 adjacent to the existing bridge at junction 13, are you in favour of that element?
We don't think that that's necessary.
Right. And on cost, you referred to £20 million. Have you done any analysis to support your £20 million figure, which is not the same as Mr. Lee's figure?
That's the figure I took to be proposed by them, and I may have made a mistake.
Right. So it's not your own figure, you'll rely on CPPF?
Exactly.
Right. And just on carrying on in this letter, page 6 under conclusions, and if we go down the 6th paragraph, which refers to the American Cemetery in Madingley, and CPRE considers that the actual and potential effects of this proposal on the American Cemetery at Madingley are disrespectful. Is that the applicant's proposal that you're referring to?
It's the applicant's proposal, yes.
Yeah. And how does that affect the American Cemetery?
Well, according to the representatives of the American Cemetery, they felt that the proposal encroached too closely to the American Cemetery,
And that's the applicant's proposal.
the applicant's proposal.
But you're in favour of the CPPF proposal, which would involve widening the road right outside the American Cemetery. Are you in favour of that element of the CPPF proposal?
We are.
So how, I just want, if I can, to understand the CPRE's position.
I mean, it's. I can hear your questions there, and I would want to. Quite frankly, I'd want to think about them, and but I can't come
So
back
it's-
with a
No, it's a,
reasonable answer. I can hear what you're asking me. Of course, I can recall very clearly the objections made by the representatives of the American Cemetery, and well, I'd have to look at how to square that.
yeah, it's a difficult circle to square, isn't it? Because the CPPF scheme goes right alongside the cemetery, and the applicant's scheme is some way distant from it, across land to the south. Difficult position for you to maintain, isn't it? Against one on the basis of...
Well, I'd rather that you put. I mean, you can put the question to me, and I've said
Yeah.
to you.
Yes.
Of course, I'm interested in. I am, as it may not appear that way. I'm interested in the detail, and certainly interested in saying things which are clear and accurate and bear importantly on this proposal. But you will know that the representative of the American Cemetery are against the proposed scheme, and actually favour the alternative scheme.
Well,
And so they've squared this circle. So I'd rather you put the questions to them, really.
all
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you very much, Professor Booth. I don't have anything else to ask you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Can I ask Mr. Applicant Writer whether you have any questions?
I did just have one point, just arising from what was said in Mr. Bradley's statement. So, yes, I've just get the microphone. So it was just the point you made about clustering.
Yeah.
And you said that the clustering idea in science is in terms of science industries is an outdated notion since COVID. I just wanted to see what the MPPF says on that. So if we could take up CD 801.
It's not just about COVID.
So it's just, you were saying it's an outdated notion,
Yes.
and I'm just exploring that.
That's one aspect of it.
So if we could just go to CD 801, page 24, and look at paragraph 87A. I don't know how familiar you are with the MPPF, but this is the latest version published in December 2024, Statement of National Government Planning Policy.
Yes.
And we see there at 87A, planning policies and decisions should recognise and address the specific locational requirements of different sectors, including making provision for clusters or networks of knowledge and data-driven, creative or high technology industries. So in terms of your view that clustering is an outdated notion, that's not the view expressed in government policy, is it? In this, the latest expression of government policy, we see clustering specifically being promoted.
Well, we know that the whole idea of the government's plans towards Cambridge are based on the idea of locating with one area, irrespective of the infrastructure problems of doing that, but of encouraging the location within one area of biotech and other technological initiatives, even AI and so on. I think that view it's most mistaken because the problems of infrastructure are much greater than they suppose, but it's also outdated because they're simply mistaken. That is, people communicate across much wider areas, and I think we mentioned that if you were to compare sort of the idea of Silicon Valley would be the whole of the UK. I mean, the idea that people aren't collaborating across multiple university sites is limited, and I think this, this simply is over-applied in the Cambridgeshire area.
Okay, just in terms of government policy, they don't think it's outdated.
I know what government policy is, but I'm afraid there's all sorts of ways in which, I don't wear a MAGA hat, for example, and shout out, build, baby, build. That's not who I am, but the government does that. So the fact that I'm a bit critical of government should come as no surprise.
Thank you. That's the only point I wanted to raise.
Professor Booth, I'd just like to move towards the specifics of the busway itself. I understand your concern about the context, and you've told us about that at some length and in some detail. You've also said that you have specific concerns about the effects of the busway on Cotton Orchard,
Yes.
and on the American Cemetery, and we've noted those concerns. Have you any other specific concerns about the busway itself?
Where it disrupts existing greenfield areas, of course. If there's an alternative, we at CPRE, we always prefer an alternative.
Do you mean the fact that it's going across open land? Is that the...
Yes. I mean, it's a huge quantity of concrete, with implications for carbon emissions, disruption of biodiversity, fragmenting areas of where ecosystems should be interconnected.
Noted those. Anything else to add?
To my concerns about its impact on the countryside. Yeah, well, yes, our overriding concern is to avoid unnecessary building across the countryside. I think we've made that very clear, and this proposal seems to not take that into account, and I think that it shouldn't just be me or CPRE saying these things. These should have been foundation principles within the proposal itself, and had they been so, I don't believe this proposal would ever have been put forward. And I think that something to be explained is how it continues to be being put forward when it is so unpopular. And I think that can only be explained, and that's why I wanted to go into some detail about the political context, because I think you require the political context to understand why this proposal is actually continue to be put forward and why we have this inquiry into it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Professor, I've just got a few questions. In your objection, you mentioned about an integrated public transport approach. Can you just say a bit more about why you don't consider this proposal would form part of an integrated public transport approach?
Well, I think it's sort of hoping to go through, irrespective of coordination with any possible east-west railway proposals. I think that it ends at Grange Road without any plan to go forward. It actually is being put forward disconnected from the transport authority of the Cambridge and Peterborough combined authority, it's impossible to see how it could be, at the moment, in its present form, part of a connected transport policy. It seems to me it is there because it was agreed in 2014 by the in the Greater Cambridge City deal, Greater Cambridge City deal. That's why we have it. It's not there because it's a carefully considered scheme as part of an overall transport policy for the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough area.
Thank you. One of the comments I think that was made in your submissions was that you consider the maintenance bills for the proposal would be high. What have you based that upon?
I think it's on looking at other busways, and so the busway that comes past the station from Shelford, from near the biomedical campus. Yeah, that has raised a lot of maintenance concerns. I mean, including safety concerns. So they're now in the process of putting up a fence along its way path. That was unanticipated. So we're looking at the maintenance concerns in other busways. Really.
So, and is this a sort of a generalised concern, or are you looking at sort of specific figures or about this proposal as opposed to the existing busways?
It seems that the safety concerns around the fixed busways are greater. I mean, we've had accidents.
So you are aware this proposal isn't for a channeled guided bus route. It's for the surface would be a flat surface with buses running along it rather than some of the other ones with a concrete curb. That's what's being proposed. Okay.
Okay. Well, there will be maintenance concerns. I can't give you figures. There will be maintenance costs.
Also, again, I think you mentioned that there's reference to I think a member of your group who advises that busways have not caught on, I think was the phrase.
Yeah.
However, I think sort of references were made to sort of international
that's true.
Examples. But in terms of Cambridge and the surrounding settlements, I mean, a number of those are served by busways, aren't they?
Yeah, that's it.
So, in terms of,
I mean, there is a lack of there is a lack of flexibility, and that was also part of what I was trying to bring out by talking about the context. Is that I think they don't because circumstances change, and they can change quite rapidly. And when you've laid down this fixed busway across this route, it's not a kind of the opportunities for rethinking the what you've decided are very limited, and I think that's part of why they don't catch on. I think circumstances will change. It was kind of like a bit simplistic, the idea that you draw these lines into Cambridge and then you carve your way through the countryside in order to provide fixed busways.
Also, Ms. Clegg asked you to sort of just clarify other parts of the scheme that you weren't that you were concerned about. There's also a reference in your objection where I think you used the terms high earth banks with tarmac or concrete topping. Is that a specific feature of it, or was that a generalised criticism of the construction?
It was a suggestion that it might involve that.
And again, and just to clarify, and this I think you've possibly already answered these questions in terms of responding to other people. Just to clarify the point in terms of the current local plan and its sort of housing allocations. So CPRE sort of oppose the current local plan provisions. Is that right, or is it not as straightforward as that?
No, yes, they think that the current suggestions of house building and office space is the allocation is too high.
So it's housing and what sometimes is called in planning terms employment land, which is
office and laboratory space is the way it is in Cambridge.
Thank you.
I mean, and at the moment the provision of office space and laboratories outstrips that of housing, and that's what I was referring to about this vicious circle, is that, because it's a job-led system. I mean, we're opposed to the idea of you creating this job-led planning system, which then creates the opportunity for more jobs, but with fewer houses, which pushes up house prices and creates housing shortage. And that's the situation that we have in Cambridge. I think one of the previous chairs of Cambridge Ahead referred to it as a bonfire. You're creating a bonfire in Cambridge, and you keep feeding it. But that's the scheme. We would like a different model, which is based on housing need and water supply and the needs of other communities across the country.
Thank you, Professor Booth. That's certainly all the questions I've got. So thank you very much for your time today.
You're very welcome. It was an unmitigated pleasure. Thank you.
I think before we hear the next two people, we'll have a short break now rather than waiting till past. But so it's 3:15 now. We'll have a 10-minute break and we'll resume at 3:25. Thank you. you've provided a PowerPoint presentation and asked for copies of that to be handed around. Myself and Ms. Clegg have had a brief look at that, and it does seem to be quite different to what in terms of what your objection is. I'm conscious you probably weren't here this morning, but I was just sort of reiterating the point that we really don't want to encourage additional documents to come in, particularly ones which aren't related to things. So my view is I don't think it's really appropriate for your PowerPoint to be distributed, just because I do think that it included a number of plans and diagrams which I don't think are in your evidence, and I'm not sure are in other people's evidence. So that's our view on that. Did you want to add anything? Or?
No. As Mr. Underwood says, Mr. Singleton, we think this goes beyond what you've already put in, I think, an objection and a statement of case. And this is you're introducing new facts about, for example, about journey times that aren't in the original documentation, in which the applicant may wish to take time to consider. We've tried to be as flexible as possible in terms of where people have perhaps been clarifying points they made in the original statements or putting in speaking notes. I think yours just goes a little bit too far.
I hoped I was merely illustrating what was there. So certainly the diagrams were only just to put some elements in context. I'm afraid my diagrams are far too rough and ready to be considered, I would have thought, evidential. To be honest, I'm really speaking to page 2, which I think you'll find, I hope, to be consistent with my statement of case. Because really there are only 2 fundamental points. One was a summary one, which is, well, can I step back a second? I should just make clear that I'm speaking as a private resident.
We understand that, yes.
And
yes.
While I am chair of the Residents Association at Old Newnham, I'm not speaking on behalf of the association, which has not taken any position on this. So just in case anyone did a Google search and found I was, I should make it clear that I'm not.
It would perhaps be helpful, Mr. Singleton, if you, just for the purposes of the inquiry record, if you, without giving us your address, if you just explain which area you're a resident of.
Of Newnham. So Grange Road, I know very well.
Yes.
And use it quite frequently. And I am also a frequent user of the U1 and U2 buses. So I have some idea about bus services, which I find very useful, particularly that bus, because it goes everywhere I need. But that's another matter.
Perhaps in terms of the one page that you are concerned about, if you give us an oral presentation based on the documents that we already have and have been accepted, and it may be that if that point on page 2 relates to what you've already said, talk about it there, but I think it would be difficult to accept it as part of the overall document.
That's fine. I'm more than happy to leave it aside. I just hoped it would help set some context.
Thanks. I mean, but by all means, if you want to let us know what. I was going. If you want to let us know what you want to say to us. Yes.
My points are fairly simple.
Yes.
The first one, I think it's the wrong answer to the wrong problem. As I see it, the question we're trying to solve here is how to get people from the west of Cambridge, in particular the Cambourne and the new developments there, to their jobs and other things they may want to do in and to the east of Cambridge, perhaps. And I think in that question, and that's certainly where some of the diagrams I was putting, were merely illustrating that I think the vast majority of people either want to go north to the science park or south to the Genome campus and the developments down there. And I think that's consistent with my statement of case. So that having people arrive in the middle of Grange Road with nowhere obviously further for them to go doesn't address the fundamental needs of the people this was for. So I'm happy to discuss that point at your leisure from there. The second point is really very much to do with the benefit cost ratio, where the calculations to raise it from 0.5 or 0.48, I think the figure was, to around 2, possibly even 4, as stated in the economic case, presumes that the land value uplift for West Cambourne and Bourne Airfield are wholly attributable to the busway. That I feel is both in sort of financial and assessment terms wrong, and also the fact that I don't think any any significant land value uplift will occur because it doesn't fundamentally meet the transport needs of the people in those areas. That's it. 2 main points. So I just don't feel it's the right solution for the right thing. And certainly in my statement of case, I made reference, I think, to the CPPF solution as being probably better, if only because it was cheaper and would deliver most of the benefits.
When you say, Mr. Singleton, that you don't think any significant uplift would occur in land values, is that because of the previous point you made about where people want to go?
Because of where people want to go, and also I don't think the developments are dependent on the busway in any sense, which is what would be the appropriate uplift to take. The development's going to go ahead regardless. But it wasn't so much, I'm not claiming there would be no land value uplift, but it is definitely not the figures that are quoted, which is about £30,000 per house as far as I could tell.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else you want to
No.
to add? I've got a couple of questions, but before I ask them, I'll ask whether Mr. Cameron's got any questions.
Me this afternoon, sir. Just a few. Can we just clarify a few points, please, Mr. Singleton, in your statement of case, which is CD 2321. The first is on page 3 of that document. You say in the second paragraph there, better and cheaper alternative proposals have been put forward by other parties, not given due weight. Is the reference to better and cheaper alternative proposals, are you trying to refer to the CPPF alternative there?
Yes, there have been a range of alternatives suggested at the time.
And is the other one that you're referring to the on-road tidal busway? Is that the other one that you're referring to? The on-road tidal busway, is that the other one that you're referring to?
Well, that's one of the others. It certainly involved far less infrastructure development.
Fine. The same page, next subheading, sorry, penultimate subheading, busway terminates at Grange Road with no obvious interchange with other forms of transport. And you develop that in the paragraph below. Are you assuming that the bus services themselves will terminate at Grange Road in making that statement?
Possibly, but the proposal, as I've seen it, makes very unclear what is going to happen beyond that.
And so you're not aware in making that statement that the buses will continue beyond Grange Road then? You weren't aware when you made that statement that the buses would continue beyond Grange Road then?
I didn't know either way, because reading the proposal, it made it very unclear as to what should happen. But there is no doubt that the buses arrive where the old rifle range used to be at the narrowest point of Grange Road, and that would cause considerable difficulties.
And on that point, the penultimate paragraph, you refer to a concern about congestion and delay on Grange Road.
Yeah.
Have you considered the transport assessment that was part of the application documents?
So the transport assessment specifically for those areas?
No, the transport assessment is a single document.
Yes.
It's part of the clarification documents. Did you consider that document?
I looked at it, but I can't say I can quote it to you offhand.
Fine. Because would you accept that nowhere in that assessment and the modelling does it identify any unacceptable delays or congestion on Grange Road once the scheme's been delivered? Would you accept that?
Well, caused by this?
Yeah.
Well, again, without any indication for the number of additional buses.
No,
that come through.
you're using the assumed number of buses and the modelled future baseline year. No unacceptable congestion or delays on Grange Road and the junctions there. Would you accept that as in the document?
If so, that doesn't accord with the reality of long queues at either end.
Sure.
So the assessment may state that there are none, but that's not my experience
Fine.
as a local resident.
And then on the next page of your statement of case, you turn to deal with walkers, cyclists and horse riders. And in the second paragraph there, you talk about the existing path cycleway from Crowton to Wilberforce Road. Then you go on, you say, though, admittedly, it's less easy for them to get from Cambourne to Crowton. Now, in respect of that, if one was to do the route between Cambourne to Crowton that you have in mind, that's an indirect route via Highfields Caldecott, isn't it?
That would be, I'm not convinced how many people will tend to cycle that far.
Indeed, it's not appropriate for a commuter cyclist, for example, is it?
I don't think so. I think this is just almost an aside point. I don't think it's a major one, but I'm more than happy to try and clarify.
Well, it's not suitable for a commuter cyclist moving into Cambridge, is it?
No.
No, and therefore the delivery of an active transport route that would be suitable, proper surface, some lighting, etc., for those people wanting to cycle between Cambourne and Cambridge, that would be a benefit to active travel in this corridor, wouldn't it?
If there is such active travel. But there's the one from Cambourne Greenway that is currently being put in, and they're redirecting Adams Road.
That's great. Thank you very much. They're the points of clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I noticed that the local councils aren't represented, so I don't think there'll be any questions from there. Mr. Single, just a couple of points of clarification. In terms of, you mentioned that you supported the CPPF alternative scheme, but I think you said mainly because it was a lot cheaper. Do you have similar concerns in terms of the alternative scheme would obviously still take buses along Madingley Road? Do you sort of share a similar concern with that, or do you have a sort of greater support for that alternative scheme?
I think I'm relatively neutral. There is no doubt that we need some additional capacity and something needs to be done. The question was the busway from Scotland Road through to Grange Road, Scotland Farm through to Grange Road, seemed to be very poor value for money. So anything that can deliver the majority of the benefits at a far lower cost, and what that would be, I have no great opinion, but it's clearly going to be far lower because it involves less disruption and is a more flexible solution, it seems. Not without its own difficulties, of course.
And also, you mentioned that in your view, the sort of the demand for people travelling by public transport from Cambourne and from the west of Cambridge was to the north to the Cambridge Science Park and to the south to the biomedical campus. What do you base that on? How have you formed that view?
Well, that's my own estimation. I certainly have not been able to find, but there's a lot of documents in the application, an analysis of what demand there would be. Because certainly that hasn't factored in any of the calculations about the BCR as to how many people would use it.
But in terms of you sort of saying that's where you think people want to go, what do you base that on? Is that on experience?
Finger in the air. I would love to be able to see some actual figures, and that's where I was looking in the application to try and find some figures that one could use, and I'm afraid I couldn't find them. But I think if I'd seen an analysis by the applicant that had some figures and justified the process, I'd feel much happier with it.
Sorry, there was just one more point that I think that's possibly been covered. No, thank you. Those are the questions I had, Mr. Singleton. So thank you very much for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So in terms of the next witness is Dr. Sutton.
Inspectors,
Sorry?
shall I just start?
Well, perhaps if you want to just introduce yourself and what your concerns are, and in particular, you've also got a concern about the proposed replacement public open space element of the proposal. So if you'd like to continue, thank you.
Okay then. So my name is Dr. Bridget Sutton. I have a PhD in chemistry and a postgraduate certificate in education from Darwin College, University of Cambridge. I've lived in Coton for around 20 years, where my husband and I raised 2 daughters, both of whom went to Coton Primary School and then on to higher qualifications. Before teaching, I worked in research and development for Hoffmann La Roche and later for GSK. I then joined Long Road Sixth Form College, which is situated on the biomedical campus, to better balance work and family life. I've also served as a school chair of governors at Coton Primary School. We don't own a car. My daily life is a mixture of cycling and public transport. That's how I arrived here today, on my electric bike, which took 32 minutes, a route that is very straight, very accessible, and could be used by residents already. My cycle route is usually along the Coton footpath, part of what is now the proposed Cambourne Greenway, a route that already enables safe, low-carbon travel between the villages and the city, and one that under these plans would be crossed every few minutes by buses near the Cambridge University sports centres. I invite inspectors to go and see that mishmash of crossing for themselves. I know the Coton footpath intimately. I have cycled it in the dark, in the rain, and with 2 children in tow. I used to cycle daily to the biomedical campus, and I can tell you that the solar studs used on my route and proposed here might just help you get home in the evening, but they really last until morning when you've got to get back to work in winter in the dark. At 17, my younger daughter used that very commute as the subject of her coursework on school travel patterns, so I have quite literally watched her map the ground we are discussing. Despite athletic achievements such as cycling Land's End to John O'Groats, she would not attempt to cycle between Cambourne and Cambridge twice a day with a full day's work in between. Through that lived experience, I have come to know how my students, my neighbours and my colleagues actually travel. My students come from all over Cambridgeshire. I know their postcodes and I've seen the buses they rely on and the ones that are cancelled or don't turn up. I can say with confidence that a busway that starts in Cambourne and ends at Grange Road will not serve them or their friends at either Hills Road or Cambridge Regional College. That is what this inquiry is examining, the order before it, not one that may one day be imagined beyond its limits. The applicant sometimes says that the buses may continue onward, but that is only aspirational. As the Mayor himself confirmed here, services depend on commercial operators and cannot be guaranteed. I support faster, more frequent buses and ones that run later than 8:30 p.m. I want my students from all over Cambridgeshire to reach their colleges on time and without stress. But there is no rational connection between a busway that ends beside 2 private prep schools and the transport needs of 16 to 18-year-olds who need to reach Cambridge Regional College at Cambridge North, Hills Road at Cambridge Central, or Long Road on the biomedical campus, Cambridge South Station. No young person is going to choose a route that ends at Grange Road. Public transport should connect lives, not carve through landscapes. As I wrote in my submission, yes to public transport from all parts of Cambridgeshire, no to an off-road route from Mattingley Road Madingley Mulch to Grange Road. The Cambourne Greenway, by contrast, offers what this scheme does not. It secures and extends safe, active travel without destroying habitat, without steep gradients up Madingley Hill, and without the years of disruption this busway would cause. That's a genuine win for commuters, for students, and for the environment. My second submission, made under Section 19 of the Acquisition of Land Act 1981, concerns the Open Space Certificate. On my regular walks and cycles from Coton, I pass through the land proposed for exchange. The land to be taken is publicly accessible, tree-lined, and alive with wildlife. Bats at dusk, tits in their nests, house martins feeding above the hedges. It forms part of the city wildlife site, a continuous green corridor used daily by wildlife and by residents like me. The land offered in exchange has none of that, no footpath, no trees, no access, no biodiversity. In plain terms, it is not equally advantageous to the public as Section 19 requires. An exchange that removes usable open space and replaces it with part of an inaccessible field is not balance, it is loss. Inspectors, I am conscious that others before me and those who will follow speak in detail about the ecological and technical shortcomings of this scheme. I won't repeat their earlier evidence. What I hope to offer is perspective, that of a parent, a teacher, a commuter, and a resident who has lived the daily reality that this scheme claims to improve. From that perspective, this scheme, as bounded within the order limits, does not serve the people it purports to. It does not represent an equal exchange of open space, and it does not align with the principles of sustainable, inclusive transport. Cambridge deserves better, not just better buses, but better thinking, the kind that starts by listening to the people who actually live, work, study, and cycle here. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. I've got one or two questions, but as we've done with other witnesses, I'll first give the opportunity to the applicants to see if they've got any questions they want to ask you, Dr. Sutton.
Thank you, Dr. Sutton. We'll start with your objection, which is CD2 OBJ 94. Hope we can pull that up for you. In the first paragraph of your objection, you say that you support better transport links, and you've repeated that today. Can I ask you to clarify that? Do you agree that there is a need for public transport improvements between Cambourne and Cambridge?
Actually, I would say that currently Cambourne is one of the few places that my students ever had trouble getting from. You know, if you live in Fordham or Ilam or, Ramsey or any of those places, they really have a really big struggle to get here. But actually, there's a bus every half hour into town from Cambourne, and then you would have to get on the U and carry on out. Oh no, I think they go to the Park and Ride and then change to the U. So actually I would say that from Cambourne, these are one of the very few students that actually have quite good transport links.
And in that same paragraph, you refer to a need or potential need to walk between Grange Road and Drummer Street, yeah?
Actually, I just can't figure out in my mind. Well, I went to one of those, as a chair of governors, I went to one of those very early meetings where lots of people came together, and I was on a table with bus drivers. And they all said, well, from Grange Road it doesn't make sense, because to get to Drummer Street we have to go, maybe we either have to go along Grange Road, sort of leftward, and then join up along Northampton Street and go in over Magdalen Bridge, or we can go out to Queen Street and do that, or we have to go over Silver Street, and they seem to think that there were great problems with large buses going over Silver Street to any great extent.
Dr. Sutton, the basis of your objection in that paragraph, where you refer to walking from Grange Road to Drummer Street, is an assumption that the bus will terminate at Grange Road and then the passenger would have to walk on. Is that the assumption you've made?
From the discussions I had with those gentlemen, they said it's going to take forever to drive that last little bit because you've got to go back along. So it will be quicker to walk.
So you haven't assumed that buses will terminate at Grange Road, but you think passengers may prefer to walk from Grange Road. Is that what you're saying?
The thing that is in there, the TWAO, Section 10, terminates, I've printed it out, and it definitely says that here we are, the TWAO, this part here, I didn't print it all out, it's just page 45. But it does say there on the bottom paragraph, work number 10, a two-way guided busway commencing at the junction with Charles Babbage Road blah, across Springbrook before terminating at Grange Road, Cambridge. So that's what you've stated in your document.
No, that deals with the operational development. What I'm asking you about is what assumption you've made about the bus services.
Well, you haven't told us anything about the bus services and you're not operating them, so I don't know. I can't find anything in these documents about the bus services. All I've got to go on is the conversation that I had with the two gentlemen who were bus drivers, who threw up their hands in horror at the thought of having to get from Grange Road to Drummer Street.
Dr. Sutton, I think what Mr. Henderson is getting at and what is in the documents is that there's a distinction between the busway and the bus service. In the busway itself is Cambourne to Grange Road, as you've referred to. What we've heard in evidence at the inquiries in the documents is that the bus route would continue
I'd love to see it,
into
but why couldn't
Cambridge.
you tell us what it was? It just ends there. It makes it sound like it ends there. I would have loved to see what the onward bus route was.
You haven't, for example, considered Appendix F to the outline business case setting out potential routes? No, I'm not going to do a presentation now. I just want to know, have you considered, for example, that document?
Appendix F.
No, okay.
I don't get paid £18,000.
That's fine. Now, in terms of your objection, if you just ask you to move down, please, to the next paragraph where you deal with Coton Orchard. You say in the third sentence there that areas in the east of the orchard have been rewilded. Do you see that? Mm-hmm. And in those areas there is now thick scrub, isn't there, in between the trees?
The orchard is closed, so I can only see what I can see over the allotment fence. But I think there is orchard, there is mature trees, there is very old trees there. There is lots of deadwood habitat. It's lovely habitat for the bats and the west nesting wildlife.
But you've not had the opportunity to go inside the orchard.
I've been in there actually many times, so I haven't measured it.
Right, fine. Can we go please to the second part of your objection dealing with the certificates? That's CD 240302.
Actually, the plan that you print that's in the documents is much better than the one that was up. You know, the one that's printed on the wall didn't have anything on it. So this one is much better.
Okay, well, we'll come to that, but I just want to start with your objection. It's a handwritten letter, Dr. Sutton, dated the 13th of March 2025.
Correct.
And the concerns that you express in respect of the exchange land are essentially three. The first is the access and the footpath, secondly the trees, and third the biodiversity. Now, all of those are potentially qualitative factors, but can we just start with the quantum? You don't take any objection in respect to the quantum of the replacement open space land, do you?
Well, quantum is quite a big word, so I do object to the quantum of footpath, the quantum of trees, and the quantum of wildlife.
Okay. But in terms of
the quantum of land area, I don't object.
Great, thank you. Now, in terms of those other factors that you do raise an objection, can we go please to CD 122? This is the open space application, and it's supported by a specific assessment which starts in one of the appendices to the document. It starts on PDF page 180. Is this a document that you've been able to consider before today?
No, I don't get paid enough to spend hours and hours on that.
Okay. So you won't have, for example, considered the condition assessments that have been undertaken within this document before you made your objection?
Well, I've seen the land. One is a piece of grass and one has got trees and bats and a footpath through it.
Now, in terms of, if we just look at...
I mean, it's WSP. These are the people who couldn't find a tree in the orchard.
Now, if we look please at PDF page 240. We've got three photographs here. One is from the M11 overbridge, but the other two are looking at the scrub on the eastern side of the M11, and there's additional photographs on the next page, 241.
Maybe we should look at the next page, because these bits...
Well, let's just start with, please, 240. On the right-hand photograph, we see the existing...
Sorry to interrupt. I think...
PDF page 240, and you'll see three photographs.
I don't know where you've taken that photograph, because it's not the bit that I looked at. It hasn't got M11 on the left. I think you've gone beyond the turn-off down to the West Campus for these photographs. So most people turn off further before these photographs, don't they?
So the photograph on the right is looking south, so you'll see the M11 appears on your right at that point. Do you see that? You've got the fence line, and then you've got the verge.
So the M11 is on my right. So the third picture along is looking south.
Correct. It says
And
that
then-
below,
yeah.
facing south with the M11 on the right. Do you
But it
see
hasn't
that?
got the rise up the hill, does it? It's not showing the hill, so it's very early on that footpath.
Right. Now, what we see is a narrow route running north to south along past that fence line, yes?
It's a well-used route.
The question I asked was not about whether it was well used or not, but I said this, it's a narrow route running north to south along the fence line, isn't it?
Cyclists manage narrow routes quite well.
It is a narrow route running north to south along the fence line though, isn't it?
It's actually quite a lot wider than that further up.
Right. The area outside of that route, so on that photograph to the left hand side as we're looking at it, if we turn over to page 241 in the PDF, it is otherwise heavily treed, isn't it?
It is heavily treed. It's full of bats and tits and birds. It's lovely.
And that area, which is heavily treed, accessible perhaps to wildlife,
I could walk down there if I wanted.
but not readily accessible to members of the public, is it?
It's perfectly accessible if you want to go there.
And it's also an area, we see this in the condition assessment, which suffers in places from littering and the deposit of waste, doesn't it?
Maybe on the day they win.
It is in close proximity to the M11, isn't it?
Correct.
And the M11 can be readily heard, yes?
Well, it can be everywhere. It can be the whole of Coton. It can be the whole of Newnham. It can be the whole of West Cambridge. It's quite loud.
Now, in terms of what is proposed, same document, please, and this is PDF page 258. Now, do you see in 258 the busway running east-west?
I can see the bus road running east-west, and I can see that where the footpath actually goes right up next to the busway. So I presume, well, I can see that's where the bridge starts, right? So that's on the bridge, because the footpath and the busway are directly beside each other with no separation between them.
Yeah. Now there's a
So that's the concrete bridge that's being built across.
so the bridge on the M11 is on the right-hand side, and you can see the M11 running north to south. You see that?
Yeah.
So we move to the west side of the M11, which is on the left-hand side of the page. You're there, yeah. We have in the grey the tarmac, and then next to it the bridleway in the brown. Do you see that?
I can see the bridleway.
Yeah. And if we follow that from the M11 running west, you see that the bridleway runs not only across the page to the west, but it also runs south about 2/3 of the way along to provide access to the proposed replacement open space. Do you see that?
I can see that it passes. It doesn't actually say it's a public bridleway. It just says it's a bridleway. Actually, it is easier in the colour, but it also doesn't connect to the footpath.
So which footpath are you
Coton
referring?
footpath. It doesn't connect
No,
to
okay.
the road called the Coton
Fine.
footpath, so it can't be used as an access way.
But a member of the public travelling along the access track as it's shown there in the brown would be able to access the replacement open space, wouldn't they, by turning left,
Yeah,
i.e.
there's
turning
enough
south?
there, isn't it? Because I think someone with experience I should have assumed that blue line to the left and where everything joined each other, where the bridleway is not separated at all from the busway, at that point it starts on the concrete sort of embankments and buttons, whatever they're called, that go over the motorway. That's the start of the bridge. Otherwise the bridleway would surely be separated.
The bridleway runs adjacent to the busway.
Yes, but in
And then
other
you-
places on the busway it's separated by a green strip.
In some places there is a swale, yes, that's right, not in this location in between. And from the bridleway, one can turn left if we're travelling west, i.e. you can turn south and access the replacement open space, can't you?
So if I'm travelling towards Cambourne, yes, that's right. Well, I don't know actually, because it's got a line across it. Presumably that means there's steps or something down, does it?
No steps shown there.
So what's
There's
the
a-
line for?
I'm not sure what colour line are you referring to? Is it
Between the two bridleways.
the blue line you mean?
No, the black line. The black line that lines the bridleway.
Simply shows the edge of the bridleway.
Yeah,
And then you turn
follow
left.
it to the top, and it stops with another line across.
No, I'm sorry, I don't follow. You go to the west, then you turn left, i.e. south,
But
and you can access the open
There's a line you
space.
have to climb across, right? Well, I presumed that actually, when I read this, as I saw this, I thought that bridleway went underneath, so that Rectory Farm could access.
That's just where the junction of the bridleway, when one part continues straight on west, the other part continues south. So if you follow the bridleway in that way, you will be able to access the replacement open space
I'll
land.
be able
won't
to
you?
access it. It won't take me anywhere, and it's a piece of grass.
So if you can access it, the first component of your objection falls away because it is accessible, yes?
But it's not a through route.
Now that's a separate point. Now you raise a point about the footpath, and just to be totally clear, if we stay in this plan, this document please, we go back to PDF page 171. And we see on page 171 a green line on the eastern side of the M11 running north to south, and when it gets to the proposed works it becomes a dotted line to show what was the existing route. Do you see that? You'll be familiar with that, no doubt.
I know I'm actually confused about what you're trying to show me.
Okay. PDF page 171.
Yeah.
There's a green line running north to south on the east side of the
Is it
M11.
page
There's more than one
172?
green line. There's one that runs down where it says bridleway path.
Right, let's just make sure we're on the right page.
171 is just a title page.
No, it's just the numbers have done it. So try 176. 176.
Ah, that looks quite different.
Just pause there, Dr. Sutton, whilst we make sure the inspectors are looking at the same thing that you are.
Right of work on.
Correct, sir, yeah. You see the green line on the east side of the M11 running north to south?
So it will be. So I was right in thinking that on the left-hand side, where you've got to get to the bridleway, it's already started on the climb.
We're just focusing on the right-hand side, on the eastern side of the M11. You see bridleway number 3930 is annotated, and it's the green line, yes?
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. The existing route is the solid green line, then it
And then
becomes
dotted.
the dotted line, and then the green line. You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, that's the footpath that you referred to in your objection, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this will be diverted, and you see that with the dashed line. So when you move from, if we start at the north, we move down past the annotation high cross, we get to the annotation PD 1401 and PS 1401. Do you see those two annotations? The diversion will then run east to the point PD 1402,
On Ada Lovelace.
and then south to NB 1401, 1403, and then west to rejoin the original route at 1402. Do you see that?
Yeah. So long as that's never fenced in, I guess we're all right.
So that will provide you continued north-south transiting on that side of the M11, won't it?
It will.
Right. So your concern about somebody transiting north to south, that will remain possible following the diversion shown there, won't it?
After some years.
Sorry, say that again?
After some years.
Well, once the scheme opens, there's no reason to think that won't be in place once the scheme
exactly.
opens.
But just that it won't. The scheme's going to take
Right,
years.
so on stream opening, you will be able to transit north to south following that route, won't you?
Yeah, we will.
Right. So
scheme.
your concern about persons on the right of way, that is addressed on the east side of the M11 with that route, isn't it?
Yes, for people it is.
Right.
But it still exchanges habitat for grassland.
So that's the third part of your objection. So let's look at that now. This is your concern. Essentially, I put it under the term biodiversity, which is the ecological concerns you have and the tree concerns, yes?
Yes.
Right. Now, those concerns that you have, as I understand it, they go to whether or not there'll be an impact on those biodiversity features and what that impact might be. Is that fair?
That's fair.
So your concern, therefore, is not with the use of the land for the purposes of public recreation. It's a separate concern. I don't belittle it, but there's a separate concern about biodiversity, isn't it?
Yes, that footpath will eventually be reinstated, and I didn't see that anywhere.
No, that's fine. But just to be really clear, your biodiversity is essentially, it's a wildlife and habitat concern. It's not about public recreation, is it?
Yeah.
Right. So in that regard, that's a separate point to be considered on its merits. I accept that. But in terms of section 19 and the 3 qualitative factors that you identified, namely access, the footpath and the biodiversity or ecological concerns you have, all 3 of those concerns have been overcome in respect of the replacement land now that I've talked them through with you, haven't they?
Now, remind me how you've overcome my ecological concern.
Because that is not something that goes to the use, the public recreation use of the land. That is a separate concern, you agreed, isn't it?
Okay, if that's not what can be considered.
Yeah, because you understand that for the purpose of section 19,
It's only public use of the land.
we're considering the public recreation. Now, I understand you've got a separate concern on biodiversity, ecology, but that doesn't go to the public recreation use, does it?
Except that this line that you've drawn here, the bridleway, doesn't actually go through the bit of land that you've exchanged, does it?
No, because we dealt with your north-south transiting point simply by the diversion.
But is it public? Will it be publicly accessible?
Yes, a member of the public can move north to south.
No, not that bit. The biodiversity bit. The bit that's been exchanged, the bit of grass that's been exchanged for the woodland, all of that area around this proposed pond.
Yeah, that was the first point we started with.
Can all be accessed by everybody.
Yeah, that's
not just the bridleway.
No, you access it from the bridleway in the way that we started with.
Okay. And it's a public bridleway.
Yeah, members of the public will be able to move along that active travel route to access that land. So I understand you've got a separate ecological concern, but on the 3 specific points going to section 19, they're all now overcome, having had the opportunity to consider the plan, haven't they?
Yeah, okay.
Grateful. They're all the questions I had for you.
Thank you.
Reggie, I did actually, my daughter cycled this on Sunday morning and produced the Strava map, if you would like it, so you can see it's an absolute straight line of 32 minutes. All right, sorry.
Dr. Sutton, just a couple of points of clarification. I think they're from your... Check them in the right documents. It's from your objection, I think. And I just want to be clear about what you're saying. In the first paragraph, which starts as a former teacher, you then talk about a busway from Cambridge to Grange Road. I presume you mean Cambourne.
Cambourne to Grange Road, yeah, sorry.
And then in the next paragraph, the very last sentence, what do you mean by the untested on-road route?
Oh, I guess that's the CPPF. And what I'm saying there is that I haven't got 18 million to spend working out if it's economic or not. I can just travel around many places in the country and see that everybody else can manage to put a busway beside a road.
Thanks. Dr. Sutton, just a couple of clarification things. In your handwritten objection to the section 19...
It was because I took a photograph of it, and I managed to photograph without doing the right-hand side that said where you could email.
No, there's not a problem. I can read it clearly. I just want to clarify, when you say you walk past BAS, I'm sort of guessing...
Oh, British Antarctic Survey.
So,
yeah.
right, that's... We've heard it referred to as the Schlumberger Institute.
Oh, that's on the right-hand side of the same road.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
British so if you go down, whatever, is that Ada Lovelace? On the left-hand side is British Antarctic Survey, and on the right-hand side is Schlumberger.
right, got you. So it's on the opposite side from that. Okay, thank you. You mentioned I think you described it as a mishmash of of routes of cycleways.
I
are you referring to the end of Adams Road?
No.
No?
No, I'm referring to the university gym. Somebody, when I was trying to explain it to somebody else yesterday, they did do an overlay for me, and amongst these pieces of paper. I'm sure I've got it. Maybe I haven't. Here, I've got it. Oh, no, it's on the front of here, that's why, because they gave it to me at the last minute. This is...
Is that the scheme?
No, it's 2 scheme plans overlaid so that we could see how it was quite hard to see it, and I couldn't see it, so they put them together for me.
So,
It's sheets 16 and 17 overlaid. And it's where Charles Babbage Road comes down, and if you were to be there at 10 to 9 on a university morning, you would see cyclists, well actually any time you see people going up to the university gym, the sports centre, and you see people coming down the footpath and turning right, and there's people going up past the Hauser Forum to get onto Charles Babbage Road. There's people, not many people go up Forster Court to get onto Charles Babbage Road. A lot of people go up Philippa Forster to get onto Charles Babbage.
Sorry, you just had to bear with me for my unfamiliarity of the name. So, it obviously wasn't the position. So, whereabouts is the university gym in relation
shall I
to
just
the
give you
sports ground?
Am I allowed to come and give it to you? Is that not allowed?
No, I'd rather not.
Okay. So if you just go along.
Also, if I find it myself, I'm more likely to understand it.
Okay. All right then. So actually it's quite overlaid on these. They've often quite got something written over it. But can you see West Cambridge Canal? Or can you find Charles Babbage Road?
Just hold on. Let's find another.
Sheet 16.
16, yeah.
At the top of 16.
Yes.
It's marked on here as Cambridge University Sports Centre.
Right. Yeah.
And it's opposite the Department of Chemical Engineering and Biotechnology.
Again. So I'm sorry. I'm still struggling. So are we talking an area north of Charles Babbage Road? Are we?
No, south.
South. Right. Yes. And so.
So the busway comes down Forster Court.
Yes.
Right, and to the left of Forster Court, so to the west of Forster Court, you can see the Cambridge University Sports Centre.
Yes.
And
Gotcha.
there's where it says on here, West Cambridge Canal. There's the main cycleway that runs down through the centre of the university, runs along there.
Gotcha.
And
Yep.
it's got the University Sports Centre on one side, chemical engineering on the other side. People don't access the Institute of Manufacturing from there. They do use materials from that footpath. And it sort of keeps on going along to the University Data Centre.
And it keeps going to Wilberforce Road. Is that right? If you keep going west.
No, in the other, no.
No.
No, in the other direction it goes to Adams Road.
Yeah.
So in the east it goes to Adams Road along the footpath that's through the back of the university that's currently very, very, very well used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the point I misunderstood. Being the mishmash is that where Adams Road, Wilberforce Road, and the access to the sports ground join.
So if you go to the end of that footpath on Adams Road,
Yes.
and you see where it intersects with Forster Court.
Yep.
So the busway comes down Forster Court and then crosses across that footpath and carries on into the West Fields.
Mm-hmm.
But also coming from below, you can see something that says footpath 39/31.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, 39/31. So there you get the intersection of 39/31, the busway, and the main university sort of cycleway footpath that runs up through the whole of West Cambridge.
Thank you. Now I understand where you're talking about now. So your reference to a mishmash, was that something that's
Oh, and-
a current mismatch or one that you anticipate would happen with the busway?
I think cyclists are actually very capable of avoiding each other. So where there's a mishmash of cycle paths, even it's fine, you know, they manage. But when you put a bus into the equation every 3 minutes, and there's also, the cyclists are also going up the Hauser Forum to get onto the road that leads up to the new Cavendish sites. So the cyclists are coming up that main road from Adams Road. So where they're making the Cambourne Greenway, Adams Road, the cyclists are coming up there, and at 10 to 9 in the morning, there's hundreds of them per hour. And then they turn off at various points depending on where they want to go to. And the ones from Coton and Hardwick coming down footpath 39, 31, or down through the centre of the university, depending on how wide they are. And then they all meet in that one little segment.
And by segment, do you mean that segment where the footpath you mentioned meets the cycleway all the way to Adams Road? Is that your segment, or is
Yeah,
is it
more or less there. More. I think you probably need to go and stand there at 10 to 9 and have a look. I think it's probably only 1 more week of term left though, or a couple of weeks of term left.
Thank you for clarifying that. You made a point, I think, criticising the proposed solar stud lighting.
Have you seen them?
If I can just ask my question, was your concern that specifically that the scheme should have different lighting for cyclists, or were you saying that actually there's other existing routes which have
There's other existing routes
with
which have these
lighting.
solar studs, and if you're going to the pub on a Friday evening in summer, they're great. However, they're just decoration. They're just sort of slightly slippery decoration if you're cycling back into work on a weekday morning, still in the dark at 7:30.
Yeah, but was your point that you consider there's existing cycleways with better lighting already, or were you saying that
most cyclists have a good light, don't they?
the proposed cycleway should, or the proposed access way should have a different form of lighting?
I just think that they're probably being oversold in what they are.
And you mentioned about how the proposal would disrupt your current route. I presume is that in Coton, or are we talking?
I mean, I would go actually even on Grange Road. Any more buses on Grange Road? What a nightmare. So there would definitely, my footpath would be, I would have to cross a bus a bus would be crossing my footpath every few minutes, right?
Again, just so I can clear, when you say your footpath.
So if I'm coming down 39, 31, and then carrying on down towards Adams Road, I have to cross the busway.
So which direction are you travelling?
Oh, into Cambridge in the morning. That would be the morning one. It's a very well used footpath, the Cambourne Greenway. I mean, I know there's many more people live in Cambourne than live in Coton, but I'd say there's a very low impetus to cycle from Cambourne, because I can do it now very, very easily. So anyone from Cambourne could do it now easily, and they don't.
So sorry. So when you say it disrupt your current route, are we talking about the same place that we were talking about before, where you said various routes would intersect just next to the sports centre?
Yeah. Because when I heard somebody else speaking, they were saying there would be one bus every 3 or 4 minutes or something. And if you've got one bus every 3 or 4 minutes, and everybody going to the university gym has to stop, and everybody coming from Coton has to stop.
Okay, thank you.
And everybody be going to the Department of Materials and the Department of Chemical Engineering and Biotechnology.
Thank you. That's all the questions I've got. Mr. Clegg was just reminding me that you offered to share your daughter's Strava route with us, which I don't think we need, because I think you described that okay.
It's a very straight line because you just come in through Upper Cambourne.
If you have any speaking notes, which are literally just your speaking notes and not additional information, then it probably would be helpful if those could be provided. Then it means that both myself and Mr. Clegg and other participants in the inquiry can see those. So if you're able to provide those to Mrs. Vincent, that would be helpful. If you have them.
I do, because I just
Thank you.
spoke them, didn't I? I just read them out there.
Well, you don't need to do it instantly.
Oh, I can do it instantly. Am I giving them here?
No, if you give them to Mrs. Vincent
Okay.
at the back. Thank you. Dr. Sutton, thank you very much for your time today.
Okay, thank you.
That's reached the last thing on the agenda for today. Let me just check. So the plan is, as I mentioned before, to resume at 9:30 tomorrow. Can I just check if there's any procedural matters that anybody wants to raise at this stage? Mr. Cameron?
No, thank you, sir.
Okay, well, thank you very much. In that case, we shall resume at 9:30 tomorrow morning, and the inquiry is now adjourned. So, thank you.